Okay.
Okay, good. So the first question, in 7 minutes or less, with information that is not available in your campaign literature or on your website, please tell us about your campaign platform and vision for District 1.
I sure will. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. I think this is a wonderful forum and certainly a great way to speak directly to the community. I'll start first of all with just a little bit about my background. We can all look at a resume, but it is nice to just get that good comfort feeling of who is this person? If I'm electing a voice, who is she? Where does she come from? I currently live in Salmon Beach. I've lived in the Tacoma area for 14 years. I'm a business owner. I've served on community boards. I like to look right within my family to also speak of many interests that are very near and dear to me, and certainly reasons that have compelled me to run for councilman. My family is consisting of machinist union workers and my father-in-law. My daughter works is a flight attendant for the AFA. I have another stepdaughter that works for the government as a nuclear engineer. My sister's a high school counselor. My son-in-law's a firefighter. My mother's a sustainable engineer working with builders. So I'm the businesswoman. That's what people are really trying to posture me as, but I would like to clear the record a little bit. I'm very proud that I'm the businesswoman, but I really don't want to be pigeonholed by that. I really want to also speak to a lot of what I bring to the table as a person, my family. Prior to being a business owner, I had a marriage and family therapy practice, so I've worked with teens, anger management. I worked with over 150 charities, speaking at schools, in underprivileged areas. So really, when I look at who's in council currently, what the framework looks like, and then I look at who are the two councilmen leaving, I think it's very important for us to consider who we put in those two spots. And so I believe that's where my resume of who I am, my experience of who I am, the people that I represent comes into play very strongly. And so I certainly will be making that point today as I'm speaking. The other thing, I guess, platform-wise, two things. I do believe Tacoma can and will be a powerhouse. And a powerhouse doesn't mean big buildings in the middle of Proctor necessarily. A powerhouse is one where we attract business, we invest in our own growth, we're mindful of sustainable living, we are very mindful of our residents, their needs, preserving character of the neighborhoods. We pay attention to our social services, our schools. All of that is what I'm going to label as insightful growth, and that is very much a part of my platform. And that is where the business person in me says, I know how to look at a budget. I know how to connect the right people. You want someone that is connected to the developers, to the attorneys, to the residents, the social services, someone who can go in and be an advocate for what your true needs are. So the last thing I guess I want to speak of is I'm an 8-week politician. So I certainly, I'm a little nervous here too, I apologize. But I am an 8-week politician, and I do look at what I've accomplished in 8 weeks, and I'm pretty happy with it. I threw my hat in the ring when it looked like the position was going to be run unopposed, and it's too important of a deal to not have an alternative voice for our community to consider. So in 8 weeks, I have gone to the minimum wage task force meetings, chamber events. I went to the North Neighborhood Council meeting. I doorbell. I went to the Rest and Point Defiance Business District meeting, the minimum wage task force meetings. I feel like I'm doing what you're supposed to do when you're a council person, and haven't started the job yet. So this is what I do when I am put in an unfamiliar environment and set to just succeed in it. You figure it out. You figure out who the key players are. You give your energy, you give your time, you give your passion, and hopefully the message, hopefully the greater good will rise through that, and that's who I am. And that's why I'm running.
Okay. Next question. Describe your vision for appropriate development in mixed-use centers, including the Proctor District.
So Tacoma is expecting to have 40,000 residents coming here. So that is a fact. We need to address that. We need to be prepared with infrastructure for that. I think the biggest thing in District 1, well, let me rephrase that. I'm speaking to you, you're the Proctor audience, so some of what I say I will certainly try to be more mindful of what is particular to this district, and of course the Proctor station being one of it. So when we plan for growth, it shouldn't be a question of are we for or against development. If we were to do nothing, we'll still live in our beautiful, serene place, but as far as still being able to provide places where our kids can grow up, raise their children, provide the amenities, the business, for people to continue to stay 10 years from now, 20 years from now, we do have to be realistic about growth. So my vision for District 1, again, goes back to being a commandeer of insightful and sustainable growth. And when I'm looking at speaking to the builders that had a part of this project, the Proctor Station, I look at a big mishap where the big disconnect of talking to the community first. You've certainly, as a community, shared your voice. They've heard you loud and clear now, and I understand that's a little too late. We're staring at the building here. It's a little too late. I reached out to Matt Smith, the president of Rush Companies, and it's his words to say, I should quote him more directly, but essentially, we have learned a lesson here. Moving forward, we need to speak more to the community, and that is very much an interest of his going forward. So when you have a person who is willing to face who we have all been adversely, opposed to, not so quietly, that's a start. You need to get the parties involved. It sounds like some proactive conversations are something he's very willing to do. And I say he. I spoke to him, but a lot of what he was talking about is Rush Company's future plans and future growths. So I think that's a start.
Okay. Next question. What changes, if any, do you hope to see in the Proctor District? How do you think these changes should be addressed?
I probably jumped into that question, answering that question a little bit with your last one, a little too quickly there. I want to be the change. Effectively, that is, I guess, what I'm proposing is the voice you have the opportunity of having now is someone that will reach out to the right members of the community. Again, keeping in mind the balance of your social services, your community residents, the businesses, the developers that are associated with it. You need a liaison between that. But I don't work for all of them necessarily. My constituents are the voters. You here. And I really, really need to always have that hat on first. But I am someone who is for the greater good. And so the change I would say is you're going to have more of a presence than you've ever had in a council member in District 1. This was a great lesson learned for council to maybe in the future be more proactive with their approach, know already what's going on, what are the plans, who wants to come here, what do they want to do. You need somebody who's in the game, per se, who understands the developer talks, the realtor, the language, zoning, all of that. And I feel that I would be an excellent candidate for that.
How would you describe the character and ambience of the Proctor District? Do you believe that Proctor Station and additional buildings on a similar scale will preserve and enhance the character of the district?
Well, it's just a little slice of heaven, don't we all think? Yeah, I lived in Proctor for 4 years before I moved to Salmon Beach, and there is really nothing quite like it. It is a gem. It is certainly why developers have been attracted to build here and create the livelihood that an urban neighborhood sort of presents. I think that the historical preservation is a key element when you are considering the character of a neighborhood, and we have that here in Proctor, and certainly need to protect that. I think that looking at the sustainability and really questioning, are we doing things the green way, the Washington way, is important, and I think that would be something that residents would potentially be open and feel better about. what I like about it, the tree-lined streets, the farmers market, your art fest, the charming Proctor Theater, the Blue Mouse Theater, the restaurants, the people walking their dogs, and all of that's important to a community. I'm a part of that community. I want to continue to see that happen, and I want it to continue to happen in the right way.
Next question. Many hundreds of your potential constituents support restoring the 45-foot building height limit in Proctor. Do you support excluding Proctor from the height bonus program, which allows the construction of buildings up to 65 feet tall in Proctor? Yes or no? Please explain.
So do I support excluding Proctor from the height bonus program? No. I do support mixed-use town centers where people can live, work, and thrive. I do not support 64-foot, 65-foot tall buildings if they fundamentally change the character of the neighborhood. And it's so lovely that we get to just keep seeing it right at its ugly stage. It'll take conversation about the height bonus program and other matters associated with balancing the heritage and the growth. I think the community should be heard. I printed out 32 pages of, a newbie here, what a lot of that height growth plan looks like, or bonus program looks like, and it was a little confusing. And I see how we sort of got to slide this one in on everyone. I think that in the future, these types of things are something that we can't, now it's very easy to kind of blame the big bad developer, but we, the city council, the city planning, the commission, is where it starts. And, as I understand, speaking to the builders, they developed under the framework, under the zoning, under the permitting that was allowed. And so, again, how did that happen? How was our voice? I don't know this. Was our voice not heard loud enough? Was it too late? I don't know, but I don't want that to happen again. And I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on future development so that it won't happen again. And that would certainly be a priority for me to make sure that we're moving forward with proactive conversation. We're one step ahead of, we have a plan for our community, and we're going to start with the city first.
Next question. Have you received any campaign contributions from any developers, and if so, how might that influence your decision-making on the city council?
I'm not seeking any developer contributions. I don't want that to be confused with monetarily. I'm not seeking it. I am actively seeking communication. I'm actively seeking alliance, some sort of relationship with the people who are wanting to build here, so that, again, you have somebody with a stake in that world. We're not caught off guard. And so partnership and me talking to businesses or me talking to builders will very much be a part of what I am seeking. When I look at just how that might influence any decisions on city council with those types of relationships, that's a very easy question for me to answer. My moral compass is constantly pointing north. I love my husband more than anything in the world. He's a great mentor to me. He has demonstrated by example and by encouragement from the first day I met him to hold your head high and people will follow. And that's a real easy way to make decisions. And so I would certainly say being influenced by pressure of city council or pressure of a builder is not part of it. The pressure I will respond to are the community residents.
Okay. Next question. Whether the height limit for development is 45 feet or 65 feet, how would you work to ensure that the Proctor District gets the necessary infrastructure to support mixed-use development? For example, parking, traffic patterns, pedestrian and bike safety.
So there's a multitude of sectors and people we need to turn to when we are looking at infrastructure. Really, just starting with some of the, and an immediate core here, looking at the Economic Development Board, speaking to, I printed out my traffic control handbook. Never saw one of those before. An important element if you are trying to figure out how traffic is run and what decisions are determined. A better understanding of Washington State DOT's traffic patterns. Again, I'm in unfamiliar territory when I'm posed with a specific question like this, but you figure out who the key players are, and it doesn't take too long to do that. And when you bring common sense and balance to all of what you do, that's important as well. I think, again, working together with council to make decisions as accountable partners is important, by starting with the end in mind and developing a plan for sustainability through results-driven financing strategies, strategic alliances, supportive public policies. Those would all be important elements working with council to determine our future infrastructure here.
Okay. Next question. You've had the opportunity to review Proctor's purpose, vision, and beliefs statement. Please select at least 2 statements from the list of our beliefs that resonate with you and describe how you would uphold those beliefs if elected.
So the sustainability part is important, and character is important. And so combining both of those, it's key. The reason Proctor is so special has a lot to do with what we have currently, but what the potential is as well. And I just feel that, again, putting the right people on the right tasks, speaking to the community about what the priorities are, working with the developers, we can really be very mindful of what Proctor has worked so hard to preserve.
Okay. And last question. How would you view your role as an elected representative, given that you would be required to take positions on issues on which your constituents, businesses, developers, environmentalists, city staff members, and fellow council members might have differing views? Mm-hmm. If no compromise between these views is possible, would you support the position supported by the majority of your constituents?
I like that question. I think it's a timely one for what we're facing right now. I think that we are stronger as a deliberative body when we can reach consensus. And I think it has certainly been no secret that consensus has been challenging the last few years. And so when you look at living in a district where many who live in Tacoma work outside of Tacoma, those who work outside of Tacoma, might live in Tacoma, the dollars, the interest that a city council person in District 1 is working so hard to accomplish for the constituents is kind of missed. It's very important that, as a priority to try to keep our folks here in District 1 living, working, and prospering in Tacoma. And so with that always in mind, council, I gave up popularity contests when I was 13. I don't necessarily think that when you're trying to bring a council together that the ideal is to have clones of one another, to have everybody from the same sector. So again, when I go back to thinking of the holes that are getting ready to be left in council and seeing what I can bring to those holes, that's important. We need to pay attention to that. But bringing different minds, different sectors together doesn't necessarily mean that consensus will be reached easily. You're certainly looking at differing opinions, and it's important to just stay true to, what my ultimate vision is for Tacoma, what my constituents' ultimate goal is for Tacoma as well. Thank you.